Trump moves to curb mail-in ballots and voting machines just ahead of the 2026 midterms. Zelensky has landed in Washington amid chatter that Ukraine should cede land to Russia for peace. And 3 states have deployed National Guard troops to D.C., even though violent crime just hit a 30-year low. This is Roughly Speaking. Democracy is unraveling through your ballot, your paycheck, and even the streets you walk. Every twist echoes hardest in the working class, so let's break this down. Trump is planning to restrict mail-in ballots and voting machines under the guise of security, when all it really does is disenfranchise. In 2020, nearly 46% of the vote was cast by mail. Add in early voting, and the two combined to make up 69% of the vote. And by 2024, 97% of voters lived in states offering pre-election day options. I was actually really surprised in researching this that 3% of the population still doesn't have access to early voting. I'm looking at you, Mississippi, Alabama, and New Hampshire? Meanwhile, fraud is virtually non-existent, like 0.00006% non-existent. Rural voters rely on mail-in ballots at around 22%, plus 25% through early person voting, totaling nearly half of the rural vote. Cut that out and you lock out seniors, working parents, disabled folks, and a huge chunk of the working class. Voting is no longer a constitutional right, but a luxury as long as you have paid time off and a vehicle. Moreover, studies show that all mail-in elections in Colorado raised turnout. Overall voting increased 9.4%, with a 16% rise among youth and a 13% rise among black voters. Now imagine those gains flushed down the toilet because of voter fraud that simply doesn't exist. If these systems collapse, expect retail workers losing shifts, parents rearranging childcare, and hourly laborers losing paychecks just so they can vote. Democracy shouldn't be another job without benefits. Look, this is fairly simple. If your only path to re-election is to eliminate the voting rights of millions of Americans, you do not have a legitimate claim to power. If fewer voters casting ballots is a benefit to your party, that's because the majority of Americans disagree with you. Perhaps they should rethink and rewrite their policy rather than rewriting the rules and redrawing the maps. Zelensky came to Washington after Europe and Trump essentially told him, give away your land for peace. Russia already controls about 18% of Ukraine's territory, but they're still cashing in big. According to Reuters, oil sales bring in around $45 million a day from crude and refined products. That's $45 million every single day going straight into Putin's war chest. That is down from last year, but here's the catch. The Kremlin didn't cut military spending, they cut social spending. The guns stay loaded while schools, hospitals, and pensions take the hit. And here's why this matters to you. Every time Ukraine loses ground, the ripple effect comes back in your grocery bill. Ukraine is one of the world's biggest grain exporters and was considered Europe's breadbasket. Back in 2022, when Russian tanks first rolled in, wheat and corn prices shot up, and suddenly bread, pasta, and meat cost more here in the U.S. And fuel prices? That's where true trickle-down economics show up. The global supply chain takes a hit, and that trickles down to your local gas station and grocery store. So when politicians talk about peace through compromise, remember what that really means. Your checkout total goes up, while oligarchs and oil companies keep pocketing billions. That's not peace. That's selling out the working class American dream to keep dictators and oil executives happy and rich. 3 more states just sent National Guard troops into Washington, D.C. on top of the 800 already federalized. But this is just political theater, not an actual disaster response. D.C.'s violent crime is down an astounding 26% this year, a level not seen in 3 decades. Reports show aggravated assaults off 65% from their peaks in recent years, and robberies dropped 74% compared to 2023. Even carjackings cratered by 75%. Despite that, the troops roll in. They claim it's about public safety, but the real numbers tell a different story. Check this out. Open table data shows restaurant attendance in D.C. cratered a whopping 31% in a midweek drop, with customers vanishing as soon as troops arrive. And your neighborhood servers lose hours and tips. Roll tape.
A different feel heading into the summer restaurant week in the region.
Yeah, some data shows that restaurant reservations are down in the district in these recent days.
Yeah, we find DC News Now's Randy Bass in Woodley Park with more from restaurants and organizations reacting to the dramatic dip. Randy.
Yes, that drop in reservations comes on the heels of a lot of pretty big changes here in the district, some on social media trying to connect the drop to the recent Trump executive order regarding federal law enforcement in the district. But people in the industry we talked to tell us August is a notoriously slow time in the business, and there could be a number of factors at play here. Heading into summer restaurant week, data from restaurant reservation service Open Table shows the number of people reserving tables in the district this past week has dropped between 16 and 31% compared to this same time last year. The previous week's stats, the same or higher than that of last year.
Meanwhile, Memphis, Tennessee, Cleveland, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, and Little Rock, Arkansas topped the most recent Newsweek list of cities with the highest number of crimes against people. But it seems this administration is eager to give a pass to red states, refusing to militarize police in areas with actual runaway crime rates. The cost is your tax dollars. Homeland Security and federal policing already run $51 billion a year. That's cash for armed control in a city that's demonstrably safer than it was just months ago. And it's coming out of your budget. If federalized law enforcement becomes normal in D.C., don't think it stops there. Your own town could be next. It's becoming undeniably clear that the plan is to keep escalating military presence in American communities all the way up to the 2026 midterm elections in the hopes of suppressing voter turnout. If folks aren't willing to go to restaurants amid this militaristic chaos, you can damn sure bet they won't show up to vote. Trump and Rubio just backed off pushing tougher sanctions against Russian oil. Why? Not because it helps you, but because the oil markets didn't like the idea. Meanwhile, Russia's still raking it in, pulling millions every single week from oil sales. Some experts say tighter sanctions could cut the revenue by about 12%. But enforcement is weak and half-hearted, and the administration doesn't appear to have the stones to stand up even if they didn't idolize Putin. And on this side of the ocean, U.S. oil companies are bragging about record profits. So who's footing the bill? Shocking, it's the working class. Our paycheck goes to fill the tank, while corporations protect their bottom line and politicians avoid tough decisions. It's not just foreign policy. It's your daily commute, your grocery run, and whether you can afford to take your kids anywhere. They're using your wallet as a bargaining chip in a game of oilopoly you never asked to play. Wall Street is pacing nervously, waiting on Jerome Powell's next speech. Futures traders are betting there's an 85% chance of a rate cut in September. For them, it's a casino. They gamble on Powell's words and fortunes shift in seconds. Meanwhile, you all are the ones keeping the economy breathing. July retail sales went up 0.5%, and compared to last year, sales are up 3.9%. Online shopping rose nearly 8%, and restaurant sales climbed 5.6%. In other words, working-class people spending on necessities is what's keeping businesses alive. But here's where it hits. The average credit card interest rate is now between 22 and 23% if you're carrying a balance. Think about that. You spend and keep stores open, then get walloped with interest that can double the price of what you bought. So while Wall Street sweats over Powell's speeches, you're the one bleeding cash just to cover groceries, gas, and rent. The system is set up so their risks become your debt. That's not an accident. It's how the economy is wired. Working people pay, and Wall Street plays. Ballots restricted, soldiers on sidewalks, sanctions surrendered, markets doing market stuff, all with you as the common denominator. Your wallet, your rights, your future. Democracy dissolves as you pay the price. This is Roughly Speaking here on the Roughcut Media Network. I'm Lee Calvin. If you want more blue-collar news and content about how policy actually affects the working class, please subscribe to our channel. And if you want, You can confidently approach the like button with a smooth pickup line, and after a lengthy courtship and confirmed consent, feel free to smash it. More boots, less suits. Catch you next time.